Welcome to the Becoming Aware podcast, where I, Genevieve Faulkner, share what I'm becoming aware of. Hello and welcome to the Becoming Aware podcast. My name is Genevieve Faulkner, your host, and today I want to talk to you about creating your reality. You create your reality, or do you? I had someone leave a comment on my YouTube channel today, and it was about kind of like the importance of not like, in a sense, victim blaming or shaming with regards to the creation of reality. So what they were saying, and they used this example of, like somebody could be driving on the road and have a car accident. It could be the other driver's fault. So therefore that's not them creating reality. And I'm grateful for the comment, and I'm grateful for that example because I'm going to use it to explain a few things in this video. Because rather than just leave a comment, I felt like it's such a complex thing that maybe it would be worth doing a video or podcast episode about. So what I wanted to kind of like talk about, first of all, like my perspective comes from the experience that I've had working with energy and the subconscious mind and people's beings for over a decade. I have been trained to look at the bigger perspective in things. And the reason being is that when you get the bigger perspective, it often unlocks parts of whatever somebody's stuck in. And that's how I assist people to get out of the things that are locking them up and stopping them from creating the reality that they desire to create. That has been part of the motivation in creating my business in the first place. Like, I'm somebody that was inspired to create my business because I wanted to help people to go beyond the physical traumas that they experience in their lifetime, and like help them to know that they don't have to be a survivor, like, so to speak, in the way of always having that experience affecting them in some way, but rather they can actually thrive beyond anything that they've experienced and be who they are beyond that experience without being the effect of it. And so what I wanted to talk about today was the creation of reality and the complex nature of that, and the importance of both seeing the bigger picture, but also including the lesser version of you in the picture as well. So what do I mean by that? So I've mentioned before that I see reality, like the physical world that we're living in, as very much like a PlayStation game. So in a sense, we are the avatar in the game, right? But I also believe that we are the one with the controls, so playing the game outside of the simulation. And then I also believe we are the coders of the game, right? So in a sense, like the perspective that you have is going to be very different depending on which part of you you're acknowledging. So if you are the avatar in the game, you're going to have a very different view to somebody who is being the controller, right? Because like when you're the controller, you might be fighting somebody and then you die and it's like, oops, I died. Okay, try again. Oops, I died. Okay, try again. Whereas if you're in the game, you're like fighting, and then, you're having the next experience and you may not be remembering the one that you had before because you're just having that experience, right? And if you're the coder in the game, well, then it's kind of like, it might even be more fun of like, well, how am I going to code this to like make it like the most enjoyable experience I can possibly have? Or whatever motive that you have when you're coding it, right? And so I think that like, with regards to creating reality, it's quite a complex thing because we are creating our realities. We are all connected to oneness. We are all part of the energy of everything. Yet at the same time, we are individual people having an individual experience on this planet. And other people are doing the same. So what is their creation and what is our creation? And when is something not our creation and is it somebody else's creation? And when are we being the effect of that, right? So if I use the example of being on the road and having a car accident, but it being somebody else's fault. If you are functioning from being the avatar in the game, you're going to have that experience and you're going to see yourself as a victim, right? You're going to see that you didn't have any choice in the matter. Now, one of the things that I'm aware of with regards to those kinds of experiences, sometimes there will be signs before the experience. So in a sense, there's a lack of presence sometimes. I don't want to be victim blaming or shaming here, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm hoping that this is going to get through. When somebody has that kind of experience, sometimes they will know beforehand that they shouldn't have been driving on the road in that moment. There will be ways in which the universe will be giving them signs to stay home, a flat tire, being held up at traffic lights and having to go a different way. Or do you know what I mean? Like sometimes the universe, if it's not in alignment with your being, there will be ways in which like the universe will be trying to communicate to you, don't do this, right? And so in a sense, sometimes for that particular scenario to happen, you've already gone against enough of your own awareness in order to be in the position where you're hit, okay? And this is why, for me, being aware is so important. Like to empower people, that's how you do it. You teach them to acknowledge their own awareness, because when they're willing to be totally present in every moment, nothing will happen to them in a way that knocks them off balance and into like feeling like a victim, because they will always have their own back enough to know whether a situation is going to work out for them. Okay. Now that said, there are other reasons why these things sometimes occur. So sometimes, like, you know, if you're functioning from the point of view of the controller in the game, right? So the controller in the game, that's a little bit like functioning the part of you, the being that you are, that chose to be here in this body. And when you function from that point of view, yes, we are creating our realities every day with every choice we make. Yet there is also some things that we set up in motion before we get here. So part of that, I believe, is based upon like the reasons that we're choosing to be here. I do believe that we kind of like, most of us have a reason for being here. Sometimes it might be to spiritually grow or evolve in some way, like to have a certain experience in order to gain awareness or knowledge. And for others, it might be to contribute to something in some way. So assist in the raising the vibration of the planet, right? And so with whatever experiences you're being desired to have, there might be certain situations or certain people that you've agreed to meet at certain times or at certain vibrational states in order to assist you on whatever it is that you're kind of like set out to create or experience. And so when there's things kind of, when you're functioning from that controller of the game, the person playing the game, you may gain the awareness of different reasons why those two cars collided. Now, sometimes it might be the two beings have stuff going on from other lifetimes. And so in a sense, they collided based upon something that's unresolved, something that they needed to release, something that they needed to learn. If you're the person that feels like it's not your fault, that might be, you know, because there's something that you needed to learn from the process, but also sometimes we can come in to contribute to one another's growth. And so it could be that you've agreed to have that experience because you having that experience is going to teach the person who created the accident the lesson to be very present when they're driving. Like it's like beyond the lifetime that they're having, they'll know not to like function the way that they were, because then they create accidents and hurt other people, right? Sometimes we actually create experiences in order to contribute to people that way. Some of us, not all of us. I know that sounds a little insane, but if you get the vastness of your being, like if you get how great your being is, if you get how many lifetimes you've lived, which could be trillions, like what if there's no end to you? Then the more expanded you go, the less significant the things that happen in the lifetimes are. So in a sense, it's like a blink of an eye, right? Just like the PlayStation game. It's like, whoop, done, done, done. Next one, next one, next one, right? And so it doesn't necessarily seem like that big of a deal when you're functioning from that vastness of your being, because you know how great you are. You know how powerful you are. You know you can choose again. You know that death is an illusion, right? Yet, there is also the you that is here, that is the avatar. And I think that it is very important to acknowledge both, right? What I think can happen in this realm of you create your reality, I think a lot of people get into it like from the place of experiencing a lot of trauma early in life. And so they go into the spiritual kind of like explorations and tap into the realms beyond the physical world as a way of getting their power back and, you know, feeling just more comfortable because they don't know how to be with whatever it is that they've gone through, or they don't know how to heal, or they don't know how to shift the energy. You know, they're in avoidance of the pain or whatever. And I think that there's a lot of people, because of that tend to like bypass the physical world. And when you're doing that, when you're functioning from the place of not acknowledging whatever it is that you're supposed to kind of like shift in the physical world and just being in the energetic realms, you can get a little superior to others in regards to the creation of reality. And then you can be in danger of gaslighting yourself and other people with regards to what it is that you've created. So I don't know whether you've ever had the experience, I know I have, of, you know, being with someone who's in that create your reality space and, you know, you sharing some sort of experience and it's like, well, you created it, you know. That's not someone that is functioning from the greatness of their being. That's somebody that is functioning from the place of being in avoidance of their own pain, of whatever they've experienced in the physical world, and are doing spiritual superiority in order to feel like they are beyond the experience, which is creating them being kind of like stuck in that ego dynamic of I am, you know, I am the more enlightened one that knows that everything is a creation and therefore you are just being a victim, right? We are all here. We're all here in this physical world. We're all having a physical experience, and you can have the awareness of like the bigger picture of things, but still have the trauma in the physical world to deal with. You can still have the pain. It can still make you feel like a victim. It can still feel unfair, because the thing is we can choose things before we get here. And from the vastness of our being, before we get into the physical body, we're like, yeah, sure, I can handle that. No big deal. Like, I've got this, right? But then you get into the physical body and everything becomes a lot more real, and you can cut off from parts of your being. And so it becomes a very different experience to what it was before you got here. And that can create a lot of pain and intensity and, you know, all sorts of things that need to be shifted. But in order to shift them, you've got to be willing to be present with them and acknowledge them. And I think that there has been a lack of that in some like communities. Like, I do not think the answer is to just brush off everything as, you know, you created this, so therefore it's your fault. Like, I think that if you know, what somebody is saying is putting you in that position of feeling like you're wrong or feeling like you're being blamed for what it is that you created, I think you've got to be in question about where that person is functioning from and what it is that they need to deal with within their own world in order to actually function from more a heart-centered space of kindness and caring. I think that really to be somebody who is like, I think if you really desire to empower other people and contribute to other people, you have to be willing to actually go through the experience of working through whatever has occurred in the physical world and acknowledge like what needs to be acknowledged about that journey. And it's only when you're willing to be that presence for yourself and work through, like if there's lessons, or work through what you've got from the awareness of each experience, that then you're able to be a space of presence with other people in their experience and meet them where they're at, whether that be them functioning from the vastness of their being or them functioning from the avatar of feeling like they are a victim and hurt and in pain and needing help, like to go beyond that, right? And so there is no kindness sometimes in just having the point of view of like, you created that. Like, no, okay, yes, they created it, but there is a reason that it has been created, and it's not necessarily like, it's all in energy, it's like the more you can be curious about what the creation has been created for and less like in the conclusion of like you created it, the more you can be a contribution to either yourself, if it's you, or to that other person, and assist them to lock out of the little reality that they're in into more of the vastness of their being. Because in a sense, like when you start to be in question of like, what was this created for? What was this experience created for? Like, what is the awareness that this person's got from this experience? What ways did this experience contribute to other people? Like, if there was no wrongness of this experience, if it didn't just if there was a reason behind this being created and there was a brilliance to it, because the universe is brilliant in the way that it creates things, then that's where you can begin to tap into the awareness and channel or assist someone to acknowledge their own brilliance in what it is that they've created. And I know that sounds a little bit strange when you're looking at things like car accidents or physical illnesses or, awful things occurring in the physical world. But sometimes there is like so much brilliance to the experience, right? Like there's so much that you can learn. There's so much growth that you can have from having that experience. Okay. So I guess I just wanted to share all of that because I'd love for people to both, acknowledge their power to create reality, but also know that they're not wrong for anything that they've created. And I'd love for the world to go beyond the gaslighty, type energy of like, how people kind of like lock each other in stuff based upon judging each other for what they've created and not actually being present and engaging with the experience in a way that can assist somebody to heal. And, to do that, as I've said, it does mean you've got to acknowledge the person like having that experience that's been painful and awful and traumatic and, all of that, and sit with all of that feeling. And it's only through that acknowledgement that it can shift in and the person can start to discover who they are, what they are beyond all of that. So I hope that contributes to those of you that have listened to this. I hope I haven't just been rambling this whole time. Is there anything else that I want to talk about with regards to creation of reality? I guess the only thing is acknowledging, in a sense, like the importance of dominance, of being the dominant energy within your physical world. So in a sense, like, I feel like there might be a question that may come out of this conversation where it is still that part of like, yeah, but there's all these other people like creating their reality. So what if I'm like being the effect of whatever it is that they're creating? If you are, that would be because there's somewhere in your world where you're not being the dominant energy. So not meaning that you have dominance over them, but from the place of, I'm not going to give up my power to fit into somebody else's idea or simulation, right? I'm going to remain physically here enough to allow the energy of the universe to contribute to the creation of reality the way that I desire to have it, okay? And that is, in order to get there, in a sense, you have to sometimes do the healing work in order to unlock yourself from the places and spaces where you feel disempowered or like a victim because what you've experienced, and tap into your ability to be a space for yourself to kind of like be willing to be physically here enough to manifest reality the way that you desire to create it. But yeah, that's where it's only through being willing to be physically here that you can then start to live the empowered version of creating your own reality. And that's where, if you're willing to be that dominant energy always, it's kind of like anybody who is desiring less through their creative experience for you, it's like it can't take hold. It's like their points of view just melt as they kind of hit the walls of your energetic field. So it's kind of like whatever happens, it's like you're supported in whatever experience that you create, right? The universe is always there with you. So yeah, if there's anything that this is triggering for any of you watching and you want to shift some stuff, I do one-to-one sessions with Theta Healing, which is really great at assisting people to break free of the resistance to physically being here so that they don't go into that, tap into the higher realms from the place of avoiding the physical. Like, yes, it's good to spiritually grow and claim all of that, but it's also important to master the physical world and to be physically present. Otherwise, you're just, going to create a lack of balance that's going to hit you in the ass at some point, okay? So if any of you desire to shift some stuff with regards to being physically here, regards to being dominant, any place where you're not acknowledging the gift of some experience or the awareness that you've had, or you're just feeling locked up in feeling like a victim or feeling like you've got no power, you're welcome to book sessions with me. You can check that out via the link. And I do also highly recommend the Theta Healing classes as a way of gaining a greater perspective of why things occur the way that they occur, and recapturing more of that creative energy that you have to be able to navigate this physical world with a lot more ease. So I do teach these classes both in person and online. You can check them out via the link as well. And if there is anything else that you guys want me to do videos about, feel free to leave comments. If this contributed to you, please leave a comment. If you have any questions about anything that I've spoken about, let's make it a conversation. Leave the comment. I'll do my best to respond. So yeah, thanks so much for showing up, guys.